This is the Solid Rock Retirement Strategies podcast brought to you by Jim Creed. Security and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Silver Oak Securities Incorporated and Solid Rock Retirement Strategies are separate entities.
Today's topic is going to be ESG versus BRI. So first question is, how the heck did we get here? Where did it start?
Where did it start? How did I get here?
No, how did...
I
suppose that's a good question, Jim. I suppose that's good. How did you...
Because it kind of leads into that.
It does, yeah. So how did you get here, and then how did, as a general topic, we get here?
Okay, so I purchased the business from my partner back in 2017 and wanted to make it an overtly Christian business. And I remember being really, depressed. Maybe not depressed is not a good word, but kind of disgusted with what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And the way that our country is going and all of that. And I thought, I'd really like to make a difference, but what can one person do? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then about 2.5 years ago, I heard a podcast with Eric Metaxas. He was talking to Robert Netzley, and Robert Netzley told the story of how he was in a similar position. He had a really great job with Wells Fargo. Mm-hmm. Lived in Carmel, California, had an office overlooking the ocean. But he was also the president of his local crisis pregnancy center. And he was prompted to look at his investments, and he found out that what he was invested in and what he was recommending to his clients was supporting abortion. Okay. And so he said it literally wrecked him, and so he didn't know what he was going to do. And after a bit of time, what he ended up doing is starting a fund family that just does biblically responsible investing. And when I heard this, I've been in the business for 36 years or so to that point. I've been a believer all 36 of those years, and I had kind of brushed up against this back late 1900 or 1900s, right before 2000. Sorry, right before 2000, and looked into it for a client, and there wasn't a whole lot available at that time. Okay. And the returns weren't that great, and so we just dropped it. I never looked at it again, and it never came across my radar. But now what I've found is in the last really probably 12 to 15 years maybe, this area has just exploded. And so I knew that what God was calling me to do was to bring this to my clients. And the thing that's really interesting about this is that I didn't know about it, but most Christians don't know about it either.
Right.
And so I really feel like our mission is to create awareness. Okay. And so we're trying to do different things through advertising, through some seminars that we do, just to make people aware this is something that they can do.
So when you say you didn't know about it, what is it?
So biblically responsible investing, basically, there's a lot of different fund families out there that claim to be biblically responsible.
What's a fund family?
So mutual funds, ETFs. So they basically specialize in, buying stocks mm-hmm. and putting them into funds. And so you could have a growth fund or a mid-cap fund or small or conservative funds. And so, just kind of depending on what type of fund you want, you can, based on your risk tolerance, those funds can be, either mixed and matched for you to get you to the risk tolerance that you want, or you can just, buy an individual fund. So, what were we talking about before?
BRI in that aspect is what part of that?
So, being biblically responsible, as I said, there's several different fund families out there that claim to be biblically responsible, But what I found out is that a lot of those don't screen funds at all. And so you know, what is screening? Well, what the ones that we do, our used do, is that they screen out things that would not, you know, align with our values. Things like abortion, things like human trafficking, things like pornography, you know, alcohol, tobacco, gambling, things like that. And, you know, some people, you know, don't have a problem with all of those things, and we can screen out some and not all. But basically what we find is that most people are, you know, aligned with, if they're conservative or if they, you know, have a belief, then they would probably want to stay away from those things. But what
themselves biblically aligned.
Yeah, and the problem, though, Drew, is that investing has changed a lot over the last, you know, several years. Used to be that you would buy an individual stock because you liked the company or you liked what they made or what they stood for. Now people own mutual funds and ETFs, which are a basket of stocks, and they don't really know what they own. So they just really look at
what are the
bottom line performance.
What are the big names in those mutual funds, ETFs that most people are familiar with? What are those names? Or at least they don't know they're familiar with them.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. So yeah, the three largest money managers in the world are Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock.
Do you think those are biblically responsible funds?
No.
Yeah.
No. So that's where you move into the ESG, and that is, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And what's interesting is that we, when we're doing biblically responsible investing, it's really in the same vein as what ESG does. It's just the opposite.
And that same vein is called values-based investing, right?
Yeah, values-based. So whatever your values are. So, and what we found is that these companies, these large money managers that are pushing ESG, they're really pushing a woke agenda for the most part. And for one example would be there's a story about I
forget the
oil company.
Oil company? Who? Procter & Gamble? No.
Oil company.
Not Procter & Gamble. BP?
No, it's not British.
Shell?
No.
The Beck's Oil and Gas?
I'll come up with it.
Okay.
Anyway, they wanted to, so BlackRock proxied their votes together with State Street and Vanguard, and because they are the largest, they're controlling around $20 trillion of assets.
Yeah.
So they're going to be the largest shareholders of any one of these S&P 500 companies.
Now, I've read that State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, they control 70% of the S&P. Is that right?
I'm not sure about that statistic, but
I think S&P.
it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I don't know what's in the S&P 500. I mean, as far as the total number, but
S&P's 11%. That's still crazy.
it's huge. It's a huge amount. And so what they did is they proxied their votes to. It was Exxon.
Oh, okay.
So they proxied their votes together with, and they forced Exxon to put 3 environmentalists on their board.
Really?
And they forced Exxon to cut back oil production.
Wow.
This is an oil company that produces oil to make a profit, and they force them to cut back their oil production. Now, if you own money, or if you're invested in a Vanguard fund or a BlackRock fund, you don't have any say,
Right.
in how those dollars are invested. You're just looking at the bottom line. They're pushing an agenda which actually has proven it's all about, you know, the green agenda.
So that's
it's all about
environmental is about the environment, the green agenda, about saving the earth, saving the climate. With regard to that, how does conservatism tail into that? We're supposed to be good stewards of our environment. Right?
Yeah, so I think when you talk about, you know, the environment, obviously we want to be responsible with what God has given us to steward, correct? But these guys are going way overboard.
They're not doing that. Yeah. They're
That,
actually,
you know, with greenhouse gases, they want us to be eating bug burgers instead of beef because cows create too much CO2. I mean, things like that are just really ridiculous. And if you look at it, I'm not a scientist, but the world goes in cycles, and it heats up and it cools down. It heats up and cools down. But they've said, oh, we're going to spend all these trillions of dollars, and we might be able to affect the temperature by a quarter degree or something like that.
Yeah, but that assumes every other country gets involved.
Oh, exactly.
In reality, it's really just going to be probably America that does most of
Well,
the work.
right. You can't make everybody else do what you're doing.
Yeah, and the greatest contributors to pollution in the world right now are China and India. And I don't even know, I know you probably think this, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I want them to become wealthy so they stop producing so much pollution. That'd be a good thing. That's what happened in the United States.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the ESG stuff though. So when you say environment's clearly the first term of that E, social, what does that mean? What is social? Is it social? Like, what does that mean?
That would be like, so I apologize. I get social and governance mixed up. But social, I think, is the DEI.
Social is
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That is that, yes.
And it's hiring not because not hiring the best person for the job, but hiring to fill quotas.
Yes. And then I'm actually going to look up the G because I too also get it a little bit wrong. Let's see. ESG governance. Ensures a company uses accurate and transparent accounting methods, pursuing integrity and diversity, and selecting its leadership. So a lot of these things, like if we just go and read, this is an ESG website. People can look. It's they're explaining what ESG is. It's Investopedia, which a lot of people use. It's a commonly used source, but even they have kind of fallen under their own acts. And environment. If you read all these, they all sound so nice.
Oh, yeah. It sounds great.
Environmental investors evaluate corporate climate policies, energy use, waste, pollution, and natural resource conservation and treatment of animals. Considerations may include direct and indirect gas emissions, management of toxic waste, and compliance with environmental policies and regulations. So on its face, I don't hear anything that's exactly wrong. The problem is that they don't actually do that.
Right.
They do the other stuff. And the same thing with social. A company's relationships with internal and external stakeholders are evaluated. Does the company donate a percentage of profits to the local community or encourage employees to volunteer? So again, sounds nice on its face. Doesn't mean that at all. They don't end up doing that. They end up applying a whole slew of policies that are unjust or lead to unjust ends. Governance ensures a company uses accurate and transparent accounting methods, pursues integrity and diversity in selecting its leadership, and is accountable to shareholders. One of the most famous companies that tried to apply ESG was Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter had the least amount of accuracy and the least amount of transparency in its leaderships, and actually came to stand for by large mansions. And this is a real problem. This is one of the things I feel like does happen with these different values is that they're not real values whatsoever.
They're really ideologies.
They're really ideologies, and they don't hold the value of, say, truth. They don't hold the value.
No. They actually make it up as they go.
They make it up as they go.
And it's not about returns, it's about ideology. And so what we're finding is that a lot of these ESG, you'll notice that you don't really hear the term ESG any longer.
No, they've stopped saying it.
Not very much.
Yeah.
And it's the same old thing, they're always changing words, and they're changing the definition of words to try to, get people to buy into what they're doing, and it's all smoke screens.
Yeah, and one of the ways I found is that I can choose who to do business with very easily by looking at their website and looking for an ESG statement. If I see that ESG statement, it's like a stamp of disapproval for me. Mm-hmm. So because that just means that they're not really, and I just don't really appreciate that. So like, I'm sure you told me yesterday you stopped shopping at Target. So like, I would much rather shop at a store that doesn't have an ESG statement on their website, just because I don't know if they're returning their profits to their employees. I don't know if they're returning their profits to their shareholders. I also don't even know if they're giving me the best product or the best value for what I'm paying. So because they're stating alternative values.
Right.
So, but so on this ESG stuff, so you got here, you were in this industry for a long time, and it's made a lot of, you said it made a lot of changes. Is one of the changes that this was always happening? This ESG stuff was always happening?
ESG really has not gotten popular
this is new.
since, I think it was about 2019.
2019.
And it just came out, and Larry Fink is this the chairman of BlackRock, and he's kind of the self-proclaimed czar of ESG and wokeness, and so what they're doing, I don't know if you are familiar in this. I don't want to go off another rabbit trail, but social credit scores. They're using social credit scores in China. They want to bring social credit scores. I think they're actually already here in the United States. But what they've done is that the government cannot mandate these things. They cannot legislate these things. And so what they're doing is they're using companies like BlackRock to get the job done and to be the hammer.
They're kind of glut and fist.
Yeah, exactly, for what they want to do. And so what they're doing is they're going to these companies and they're saying, hey, you guys need to basically fall in line with these social credit scores as a company, and then you're also responsible for making sure that all of your suppliers, all the way down the supply chain, are doing the same thing. And so it's really intimidation, and then what they'll do is they'll draw their money out, or just make it difficult for you to do business because they have so much power. They can do this, and so what I want to do is I want to help people put money with companies that actually align with their values. Take the money away from these companies that we're probably, a lot of us are invested in, through a 401ks and things like that. You probably are BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street.
The average American, if they look at their 401k statement, they will see Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street.
Exactly.
Because these companies have agreements with various, 401k management firms.
Right.
So
and they, so basically, if you're not purposely investing your money to align with your values, I can pretty much guarantee that your values are being attacked by these companies. And the worst part of it is that they're using our money to do it.
Right.
So they're using our money to attack us. And it's like, why continue to give them the money?
So how easy is it? Is it easy to move your let's say my 401k is all in Vanguard. Is it easy to get it out of?
It's not as easy in the 401k space because there's just not as many options available in the 401k space. If you're self-employed, like all my 401k plan is in biblically responsible funds. But that's because I can self-direct that.
Right.
So if you have opportunities to get the money out, and move it to places where you can go self-directed, then you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if I have ESG, that's the problem. The solution's biblically responsible investing. Are the returns the same, or are they better?
I mean, it kind of depends on when you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But what I would tell people is that depending on what your what's the word I'm trying to think of? Convictions. What your convictions are. I really believe that this is not my money. The money that I have is not my money. It's God's money.
Right.
And so, I didn't know that I could invest it to benefit the kingdom before. That was ignorance. Now I do know that I can do that, and if I don't do that, I personally feel like, and I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just here to tell people what they can do. It's up to them. It's between them and God, where they lead them, or where He leads them. But I really feel like I should have my money invested in kingdom types of companies. And again, it's not necessarily companies that are Christian companies. It's just that they're not violating, our closely
They're not
held.
proactively going against you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And not proactively probably the wrong word, and viciously would probably be the better one.
Yeah. I think if you really look at it, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, they don't really like conservative people.
No.
They don't. I don't think they like Christians.
And do you know what? They don't like homeowners, and I actually find that to be a big problem. So
There's a lot of things that are going on there.
I like that they're buying up houses.
I don't know. I haven't seen this lately, but I know that they were buying whole neighborhoods.
Whole neighborhoods, yeah.
And they were paying up to 30% over a market. And so, what is that doing
To the housing market, yeah.
to the housing market? So, what does that do? That prices houses for most people out of the realm of possibility. Now, you've probably heard the term, "Hey, you're going to." What's the term again?
The term that Klaus Schwab used.
Yes.
That you will own nothing.
You will own nothing and you'll be happy. Thank you. Hadn't heard that for a while, but
Yeah.
And so you can kind of see how they're using these things to set this whole thing up. Because if housing is so expensive that you can't afford it, then you've got to live in some apartment or something like that, where you're really. I shouldn't say being controlled, but you're a lot less.
You are a lot less free.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a lot less free when you don't own your car. You're a lot less free when you don't own your house. You're a lot less free when you don't own anything.
Right.
So when you own your very property, it used to be a symbol of freedom was the fact that you owned land.
Right.
A symbol of freedom. And that's why those rights are enshrined in our Constitution, is that you get to own this land. But now the land is taxed and usually has loans on it. And eventually you won't even have loans on it. It will just have a lease on it. So, in China, you are not allowed to own land in China. So you actually lease your property from the government for a century or something along those lines.
Okay.
So
it's never really yours.
it's never really yours, yeah. And mildly, the thing that I think about when I think about a community and I think about the way that communities function, how can the elders of the community give to the children of the community if they don't own the land that they live on? And so it seems so destructive that is happening.
And how much, how much sweat equity are you going to put into something that you don't own?
No.
Are you going to take care of it? Are you going to try to improve it?
Right.
Probably not.
Probably not, no.
Probably not.
So with regards, we covered ESG, we covered BRI. I suppose the next logical step would be to tell people, what exactly can a person do if they can't necessarily jump the bridge to full biblically responsible investing because they don't have any assets to do with, but they have their current assets and they have their current investments? Do they have any sway with the companies they're invested in or with the funds they're invested in?
Well, that's a good question. I think if there was enough people that were asking for biblically responsible, options inside of 401ks, that companies may.
That'd be a start.
That would be a start.
So has any company ever folded?
Like completely, like to a bunch of shareholders say, we don't like what you guys are doing. Has that ever happened before?
Not that I know of, but yeah, I'm sure there might be some situations out there where that maybe that's happened.
But if that happened more, do you think people would actually, the companies would fold? Like, do you think if half of the shareholders that hold Vanguard stock?
Oh, I don't know that they would fold. I think they would try to figure out another way, and it seems like everything's kind of connected.
Yeah.
And so I think these people will take care of themselves and their group.
Right.
So it's working against us, and so I guess what I want to do is I want to just kind of see if we can I really feel like the only maybe opportunity we have to turn things around for our country, for our culture, for the world is, to take the money away from the people who are using it against us,
Right.
and to use it for good. And I think that is the that's something that they listen to.
Right.
They listen to money.
Yeah, and
I don't think they're ever going to agree with it.
an expression of their power is the size of their wallets.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because
Absolutely.
they don't necessarily, BlackRock doesn't necessarily control an army. Vanguard doesn't necessarily control an army, although they may control defense contractors and things like that. But they are beholden to their shareholders in a sense. And the second the shareholders stop seeing profits, that's when people start to run away from the bank and start to pull out their investments. So I do sometimes wonder, do you wonder in like 10, 15 years down the line, because this is going downhill real quickly right now. Mm-hmm. So, because, S&P 500 dropped 1,000 points last Monday. So do you think this is going to keep going downwards?
Hard to say. I mean, I think that the market's overvalued right now. So, we've been looking for a reset for a long time.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened. So I don't know if it's being manipulated. I really, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I have to wonder, with the economy being as poor as it is, how is the market, in all-time high territory with interest rates where they are, inflation where it's at, all of those things? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, I don't think it makes sense to even the economists that are saying it does. So do you think that BRI offers some kind of a hedge against that?
Well, I think that the thing about companies that are doing things, in a biblically responsible way is that they're taking care of their employees, they're taking care of their customers, they're doing things, that are giving back. It's not taking, it's more giving. If that if that makes sense. So I think that is a positive, force that I guess the only thing, I mean, if we don't stop this, I'll just say I think this is the only opportunity or the only chance.
There's only one chance to course correct. And
I think that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive, and I believe.
do you think maybe that might be too pessimistic? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe, but things seem to get worse every day.
Things do seem to get worse every day. Yeah.
Isaiah talks about wrong will be right, right will be wrong, and we see examples of that all over the place. And it's like, you just go, how can these people be thinking this? And there's a spirit of delusion, I think, out there. And so, not to get too far in the weeds on the spiritual stuff, but I think that all has a place here. And I really, I was thinking about this the other day, the contrast between, good and evil, dark and light, strength and weakness, and or maybe that's not a good example, but, to me, it's I think that's what ESG and BRI are kind of on those separate ends of the spectrum. And even though they're kind of the same thing, it's like we see that Satan counterfeits everything.
Yeah, one is
that Christ does.
ESG is a kind of temptation.
Yeah.
It is a kind of temptation. That's why it's always sounds so nice. Clothed in soft nothings. It's hard to say it's the exact opposite. It's actually the exact intent of what you would expect if somebody tried to produce some kind of moral system without a kind of actual
compass
ethic or compass, yeah,
or an absolute.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
exactly.
So, but the one of my favorite authors, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he says you can resolve to live your life with integrity. Let your credo be this: let the lie come into the world, let it even triumph, but not through me. And I think that's one thing that frustrates me with conservatives. I'm sure it frustrates you. They're very dour about things, like it's always going to end, the world's going to end, everything's going to go wrong. And we have to be okay with that. So, because you actually can't win a battle if you're not okay with losing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will tell you, I think that, when we started going down this road, there was a lot of people that said, "Are you really sure you want to do this?"
Are you nuts?
Because you're putting a mark on you're putting a bullseye on your back.
Right.
And, I just felt like, I feel like as it gets darker out there, I need to get bolder. And I feel like, I don't know, easy for me to say right now, we're not really being persecuted like a lot of believers around the world.
True.
But I think the time is coming. I don't think it's too far off. If we don't, start making some of these changes.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying that to try to scare people, but I just think it's a fact. And so I just feel like I'm emboldened to take this platform for the Lord. And honestly, I may sound cheesy, but I really feel like my business is really a platform for me to do ministry. And it's simply there for that. I mean, I'm 63. A lot of people say, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" And honestly, I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, because I just really figured out after 38 years in the business that I just got to where I feel like I'm making an impact. My passion has become what I do. And so I just feel like I get to talk about the Lord, with clients. I get to show them, basically, hey, let's do let's screen your portfolio and see what you're invested in. I get to show them. That's not always a fun thing, because a lot of times people are shocked. And the term I've heard more than once is, once I see this, I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And so again, that's where it comes down to them, and again, whatever those convictions are. I'm not here to bang them over the head, but I just
that's the thing that's actually important subtopic of BRI is that means different things for different people.
Right.
So now I think, and you'd probably say this, that there are certain things that BRI is absolute. Like if you're not doing this, you're absolutely not doing BRI. I think one of those things is probably abortion. I think if you're not avoiding abortion funds, then you're doing values-based investing. If you're doing the other stuff, but you're not doing biblically responsible investing, because the Bible is very clear about how we were knit in our parents' womb by our Father in heaven. He counts the hairs on our head, and He knows us. He knows us by name.
Right.
How can you be biblically responsible invested if you're invested in abortion, or at least know you're vested in abortion and not doing anything about it?
And that could be even abortion drugs. I mean, that can be, I hate to tell people, but, Amazon, you can order the abortion pill on Amazon.
Right.
Right now. So does that mean you stop, using Amazon? Maybe that's conviction. And I think, this is another topic for maybe another day, but, owning a product and owning stock in the company are really two different things.
What's the difference between those two?
Well, if you own stock, then you're part owner in the company, and so you're profiting from what that company profits from. If you're using one of their products, that's part of their profits, but it's not like you are owning the company and you're not. So now, me personally, I'm going to tend to, I'm sure I'm a hypocrite, because there are things where, I might, make just say, oh well, I'll just do that or whatever. But I try, I think I tend to be all or nothing. It's either black or white. And so, I don't think I've been in a Target since when they did the bathroom. So when they started, changing the bathrooms.
So it was the bathrooms, and then it was probably for me. I wasn't really paying attention at that point. Of course, I was only in college when it happened, but I stopped when they started putting the transgender, children's sections up. And I was like, this is just crazy. This is crazy. I mean, this is not good for kids. It's not conducive to Christianity. It's not conducive to society even. Why are they doing it? What's the point? And the answer is that there is a large activist crowd that will, if they go into a store and they don't see those things, they're not going to go into that store. And that was really, I think, Target was really the first time Christians did that finally. They finally said, you know what? We're not going into that store. I can't tell you how many Christians have told me that they're not going into Target. So I think, I think a lot of companies pulled back on it. I know Starbucks did. Starbucks pulled back on their stuff. So.
Well, I will just mention to you that there's a lot of people out there that are boycotting different companies, like Target or Disney or, Bud Light or whatever.
Bud Light, probably the most successful boycott.
Yes, yeah. But yet they won't buy the product, so they won't go in the store, but yet they may own it in their
Right.
in their
In their
investments.
portfolio, yeah.
And I don't think they know that they own it.
Right.
But that's the thing is we've got to help people.
Which would you say
know what they own?
Which would you say is more important? Or like more, I don't know, has more weight to it? Owning the stock or buying the product? Which one would you say? Like, you just
I think it's owning the stock.
owning the stock.
I do because again, you're a part owner.
Yeah, and there's no way to say that you aren't supporting that company.
Right.
Whereas you could say, well, I needed that product. They were the only company.
And sometimes you may not. I don't know. I think there are a lot of good alternatives out there. I don't know if you've heard the term parallel economy.
Nope.
But the term parallel economy is there's a lot of companies out there. For instance, AARP. AARP, for people over, I don't know, it's age 60 maybe? Because I think I got my first letters in the last few years. Yeah, no, you wouldn't yet. They're very liberal. They're pushing an agenda. There's a company called AMAC that does the same thing that AARP does. I moved to, I'd never started with AARP, but when I found AMAC, I became a member of AMAC. My personal, my cell service, I had AT&T. I got rid of AT&T. I'm with Patriot Mobile.
Okay.
There's a couple of good,
U.S. based, right?
Yep.
That's
Christians own the company.
That's Patriot Mobile. Pure Talk is
Pure Talk is another one. Yep. So there are alternatives out there, and one place that you can go look it's called Public Square.
Public Square.
It's an app, and actually, if you are self-employed, you can list your business on there. You have to answer some questions, and basically, it's almost like an anti-social credit score because.
Yeah.
If you, in order to answer the question so you can get on the website, you would, I'm sure, get a 0 on your social credit score.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So there are things out there, there are opportunities out there to look, and it may be at some point, that, hey, there's just no other solution, and I have to use this product. Again, I don't know that anybody can necessarily fault you for that. One thing, I don't think you're ever going to get the perfect portfolio either.
Yeah.
Even going down with BRI, you're probably never going to get all of the bad stuff out. But, and I had a conversation early on as we were looking into this and how getting our arms around it and what it was and how do we do it. And one guy told me, I'll never forget, he said, it's like, we as Christians, we're never going to get all the sin out of our lives.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we don't stop trying.
Right. It's almost possible to remove all temptation.
Right. So I think it's, again, personal conviction, but for me, it's like I want to try to get as much of the bad stuff out as I can. And for me, that's my number one goal.
Okay.
And I am just trusting that God, because he tells me that, he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills.
Right.
I mean, he owns everything. And, the parable of the birds and, and the flowers, right?
Right.
I mean, he provides everything we need. Now, it might not be what we want necessarily. I think I heard somebody there say, he doesn't supply our greeds, he supplies our needs.
That's very...
I thought that was good. I like that. So I just, feel like I got to trust that. And again, I think you can really fall into a lot of traps chasing things, right?
Absolutely.
Materialistic things. And so I think that this is just a mindset that can really help you in so many different ways to follow Christ.
See, I think with some of the ESG stuff, with some of the companies, they have that lovely little statement on their site. But then you go, you look at some of the things that they themselves produce, like lithium and cobalt and things. Anyone out there, they can go look up a cobalt mine in, Africa. It does not take long for you to go, oh my stars, what is my money funding? I mean, this is insane. I actually recently just read about another one called sulfur mining. If people mine sulfur, completely crazy. These people live to be like in their 40s or 50s. They die early. And
Not to mention, you're tearing up the landscape, right?
well, so sulfur mining doesn't tear up the landscape.
Okay.
Sometimes it does. Most of the time they mine it from volcanoes.
Oh, okay.
And so the sulfur is piped out of the volcano, and people will stand there with like sticks, and it drops out of these pipes, and when it hits the air, it condensates, and it drops down and it solidifies, and then it hardens, and people can chip at it with sticks. But there's all this noxious fume coming out of the pipe when they're doing it. And these people don't even have masks, so they can't afford them. They get paid like $19 a day. And so like they hike up the mountain. They have these, like wagons, and they get up to a certain spot. But then the wagon can't go down into the volcano, to the pipes. So they take these baskets and put them on their back, and they carry them down with their stuff. And some of them have masks, some of them don't. And they carry, 200 pounds of sulfur out of the mine, 3-4 times a day.
Oh my gosh.
And they get paid $19 to do it. So it's the same thing, with limestone in Egypt. If you have any sort of products that use limestone in them in any way, even if it's just to make tiles, plastics, whatever, when limestone is mined, it's mined on these giant quarries, and they have this machine. It kicks up all this dust, and the machine has a saw blade on it, and the saw blade's not covered at all. People are losing limbs and dying. I mean, it's just like, is that the way that we're gonna mine lime, and that's the way we're gonna be okay with buying it in the new world? Like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being naive. Like, there's no way to. But I just think like it's not worth the profit. There's no way it's worth the profit.
Well, again, so, we talk about the greatest commandment. Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God, all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, and all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, right.
So how do we love our neighbor as ourselves? Through biblically responsible investing.
Right.
By not taking advantage in making money off of at others' expenses.
Right.
And that can be pornography. Think about the victims of pornography.
Right.
Think about alcohol. I heard a statistic, I don't remember the exact number, but a great percentage, it's a very large percentage of the people that drink alcohol are alcoholics.
Really?
The people that drink it socially here or there, whether you believe, whether that's, against your convictions or not, that is the smallest percentage. The biggest percentage are people who are alcoholics. So, these alcohol companies are profiting off of, others'
Right. So the
misfortune,
people that are
right?
drinking socially are basically not buying near enough amount of alcohol to support like Bud Light or support.
Right.
So you're saying like, they're clearly benefiting from that. Instagram benefits from the same thing. Instagram are the same sort of thing. They found out that a majority of the traffic on Instagram, not a majority, but a large percentage of it is people interested in child exploitation. They account for the largest number of searches. They account for the largest numbers of views and clicks on content, which the way that Instagram, the way these social media companies make their money means they're the largest portion of clickers on ads, viewers on ads, which means the ad company's paying Instagram the most amount of money for this subset of users.
And they know it too.
They
know these people are addicted.
Right.
And it's like built in, it makes me think about, these slot machines that are all over the place now, and even in restaurants sometimes. Yeah. And somebody was telling me the other day that if you have one of those things, you can make like $30,000 a month with one of those. But,
is it worth it?
Again, is it worth it?
Could you sleep at night? Yeah. Could you sleep at night? Or when you get to the 70 or you get to your deathbed, how would you feel? So I always think that people should think of that whenever they invest $1, they should think, when I get to 70, will I look at that dollar and go, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah.
And I think I think that's at its heart, the start of somebody doing BRI is making that consideration.
Yeah, I think so. So it's like, obviously we want our investments to do well. And that's what we're trying to do with our clients is help, but it's so much more than just investing. It's like, do you want to feel good about what your money's doing? And so the companies that we use as our money managers to do this, they're doing a lot of work. They're screening these companies constantly and looking at them all the time, because somebody could change.
Right.
A company could change its course. And how are you going to know unless you've got people researching this on a constant basis? And so if you're investing in companies that are doing good in the world, you know that, hey, my money, not only am I making a return from that, but I'm also, that company's doing, that adding value, creating good things in the world. And so as well as basically just, changing the environment and the culture, because there's examples, lots of examples of companies when we do a portfolio, these managers that we're using, they'll write letters to companies saying, hey, we are using you because of this, or we're not using you because of this. And there's examples of companies that changed course on what they were doing because they got those letters. So your money is not only being invested for your benefit, to benefit other people, but also to make, hopefully positive change. So there's a ripple effect. There's the proxy voting that goes on. Right. When you are invested in State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, they get to vote your proxies.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That doesn't seem right.
You're giving them.
How did they get the right to do that?
Well, because they're managing your money.
They're managing the.
So they get to vote your proxies. Okay. Now the same thing happens with when you're doing BRI, those funds. But what these funds are doing is, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, is that they are actually, voting for conservative values in those companies that they're invested in. So they're,
so then
influencing.
As a believer, your money's actually being counted. Whereas with BlackRock, it's not completely at all.
Right. And then another thing is that the fund managers that we're using, they take a good chunk of their profits and they actually give it to ministries.
Oh, wow.
So not only,
can you feel good about your investments? You can actually feel good about profiting from your investments as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's got to be nice.
It's like a ripple effect.
Okay.
And so again, it's like, most people don't think about this. Hey, I'm invested in BlackRock or this or that or the other thing. All they really look at is their bottom line.
Right.
And again, I've been in this business for a long time. I helped people do those same things.
Right.
I wish I would have known about this sooner, but I didn't. Now that I do know about it, I can help people, to steer away from those things and to, make an positive impact with their money for the kingdom of the Lord in our day.
Okay. All right. Well, Jim, where can people find Solid Rock Retirement Strategies? Where can people find you guys?
Well, so we're in Peoria, Illinois, and we are in Keller Station, which is on North Knoxville. Our website is sr724.com.
Okay.
And that is Solid Rock 724. That 724 is a reference to Matthew 7:24.
Okay.
The wise man built his house upon the rock. So that's where that number comes from. And so sr724.com.
Okay, awesome. And our podcast can be found on podcast.sr724.com. I'm not sure if you knew that.
I did not know that.
It can be found there.
Thank you.
So podcast at sr724.com. If people are going to reach out to you, can they connect with you on the website? Should they give the business a call? Should they just show up unannounced?
Yeah, our phone number is 309-263-0022. So they can call in or they can, and we actually do have on the website, there is a tool there that you can go and you can test up to 5 of your positions.
Oh, yeah. Those.
On that for free. And so, if you want to do that, or if you just want to come in or you want to email us, your statement, and you can black out the numbers on the side. I really don't care, but we can show you what you own and, how you're invested, and we can show you what percentage of that is, going against your values.
Okay, awesome. All right, and when will our next episode be?
I don't know when.
Do it next Tuesday?
Okay.
Figure it out. All right, thanks for joining me, Jim.
Thank you.
That's it.
Appreciate it.